ride the buses in shame and they walk in dignity because the blood of a martyr had birthed a movement. Y'all didn't get that. Let me tell you. Another one, the year, what was it, 1963, I believe June 12th was the date when, who was it, Medgar Evers was killed in his own driveway. Later that year, 4 young girls were killed on September 15th, 1963 in Sunday school at the 16th Street Baptist Church there in Birmingham. And later that year in Dallas, a president who was late coming to the support of the civil rights movement and then declared the need to pass a civil rights bill was slain there in Dallas, Texas. But upon the blood of those martyrs, we had passed the Civil Rights Bill of 1964. The blood of martyrs has a way of birthing a movement. That's not it. You recall 64 when you had the Freedom Summer. During Freedom Summer, Schwerter, Goodman, and Cheney were slain. Not to mention many others. And then on February 26th of 65, Deacon Jimmy Lee Jackson was killed in a protest march for voting rights. And then they marched from what? Selma through Bloody Sunday all the way to Montgomery. And as a consequence, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president from Texas, declared, "We shall overcome." And before you know it, we have the passage of the voting rights bill because the blood of martyrs had birthed a movement. Because I'm a preacher, I've got to give you one more. And that is one Friday, there was a Savior that died on a cross. The blood of that martyr birthed a movement. So they should have brought down the racist rag known as the Confederate flag. It should have come down. But you will agree with me that even though the flag is down, the policies are still up. And we cannot settle for a flag coming down as long as the policies are still up. And you know, I'm not just talking about South Carolina. I'm talking about states all across this nation that have raised policies in a racist voter ID that has targeted black and brown communities, ensuring that we are robbed of the franchise. We have to be concerned about the fact that even though the racist rag is down, the policies are still up. And since the policies are up, it's important for us to recognize the wisdom of Dr. Melissa Harris Perry. She wrote a book a few years ago and entitled that book Sister Citizen. In the book Sister Citizen, she brilliantly talks about how in the field of cognitive psychology, they did right after World War II an experiment, watch this, in field dependence. In field dependence, they did this experiment where persons were, watch this, placed in rooms that were crooked. The rooms were crooked and the images on the walls were crooked. Not to mention the fact that they were told to sit in a chair that had to conform to a crooked room. Do you get the picture? In in cognitive psychology, field dependence, persons are placed, don't miss this, in this crooked room, surrounded by crooked images, and told to sit in a crooked chair. And then they have to stand up straight. Now, I like that because in a real sense, you recognize that the structure is crooked. And yet they have to stand up straight in a crooked structure. And how many times have our possibilities been precluded because of a structure that is crooked? You recognize, I must raise the question, how can we stand up straight when the structure is crooked? You'll agree with me, the structure is crooked. How do you stand up straight in an educational structure that is crooked? It is so crooked that it in a real sense has our children going to school but not getting educated. Because they find themselves going to classes where they are being trained to take tests. And even though they're trained to take tests, they're not being educated. Because a part of their training, don't miss this, has everything to do with sanitizing slavery. When they read the history textbooks right here in Texas, they're trained to take tests, and so they go to school, but they're not getting educated, but instead they are being set up for a pathway to prison because we recognize that Texas has set it up for how to fail in school and then make their